My question is to Andrew and Mark. Helen Haines is on the panel tonight. Could you please explain to her and to us why your party won't support her ICAC bill? Thank you.
I'll start with you, Senator. Why not support the bill that Helen Haines has been working on for quite some time now?
Well, thanks, Ian. And I think you're from Kyla, which is a part of the world I know pretty well. Look, I think that an anti-corruption commission is a good idea. I wouldn't call it a federal ICAC. I'd be very clear about what it is, and it would be about dealing with serious corruption issues. I've been attracted to the Victorian model, which I think does a lot of good work in the background, and then once it's built a good brief of evidence, it can use coercive powers. I think that would be a very appropriate thing for us to have in Canberra.
But why not the bill? The question was, can you turn to Helen and explain to her why her bill won't cut it?
Well, the executive government legislates its agenda. I mean, independents don't legislate, and the government is developing...
Parliament should always be open to an interesting new idea and a new voice, shouldn't it?
Well, but the government is developing an integrity commission. I mean, I would prefer to call it an anti-corruption commission, and that is something that is in the works as we speak.
Oh, well, Mark Dreyfus, Helen's sitting next to you. Tell her why.
We would support Helen's bill, and that's been made clear. I've done a press conference with Helen in which I made that position clear, and we made our position clear in respect of the precursor bill, which Helen's predecessor, Cathy McGowan, tried to bring forward in the Parliament. Every single crossbench member of the Parliament and Labor, and that's why I did a very unusual press conference a couple of years back with, unusually for me, Pauline Hanson and all of the Senate crossbench and all of the House crossbench saying we will support a National Anti-Corruption Commission. If it's Helen's bill, that's fine. And I have to say, the only parties who don't support a National Anti-Corruption Commission, a powerful and independent one, is the Liberal and National parties. So the questioner, unfortunately, has to grapple with the problem, just as Helen and I do, that we're not the government at the moment. To get a powerful and independent National Anti-Corruption Commission, you'll need to have a Labor government, and I'm very much hoping we will get elected at the next election so we can do this, because we've been committed to this.
Let me find out what, Helen, the status of your bill is.
Yeah,
Helen?
well, let me just say first up, the fact that Ian, a member of the public, asks a question about something as technical as an Integrity Commission bill tells you how important it is to the people of Australia.
So what's the status of your bill? Because I think you need a couple of senators, don't you?
I do, and I can say that at that press conference, which all the crossbench senators from both the House and the Senate were present, including Senator Hanson, Senator Patrick, Senator Sterling, and Sterling Griffin, so on. I will be reintroducing my bill to the House. It will be an opportunity for Andrew to be dead serious about this, for other members of the government to be dead serious about this. The bill that I have presented to the House, the government had no desire whatsoever to debate it. Andrew speaks as though this is some kind of far-off idea. We had a Prime Minister who promised us at the last election that he would deliver a Federal Integrity Commission during this Parliament. Well, that was more than 1,000 days ago. All we've seen is a draft plan from the government, no legislation. Indeed, my bill has been judged by Transparency International when they looked at all the integrity commissions around Australia, anti-corruption bodies, as being best practice. The work is there, Andrew. I invite you. Look at it. This, I think, should be taken out of the hands of the big parties. Let's face it, the nation has lost trust in much of our political discourse coming from the major parties.
Okay.
I think a safe pair of hands coming from the crossbench could get rid of that and actually deliver for the nation something they truly want, an integrity commission.
I want to go to Kate and also go back to the Senator as well, but very, very quickly. As I understand it, Helen Haines, in order to get that bill back into the House, you do need to find the support of a couple more senators. Have you, very briefly, have you managed to secure them?
What I have is an opportunity to either reintroduce it to the House of Representatives or bring it through the Senate. And I can tell you that I have the crossbench on both houses supporting my bill.
All right.
We have just one more thing. At the moment in the House, 75-75. It only takes one member of the government to cross the floor.
I don't think you're a big fan of a federal ICAC, are you, Roffey?
I'm not against the federal ICAC, and Craig and I don't want to be ganging up on our elected officials here.
Go right
ahead. I agree. It's so subjective, you know, because it isn't illegal, very clearly defined. That's illegal and that's immoral. And so part of the difficulty I think I have with these sort of entities, and it's what you're talking about, Helen, is they have to be structured up properly. I am all for making sure that morals, ethics and integrity are upheld. That's one of the things I think the public are crying out for. We just want to know that we can trust.
And so you don't see an entity that exists in Australia right now that does that?
My one concern, and I've seen it happen, is I am not a fan of public trial by innuendo. And I think these entities open themselves up for names to be put out there with very little evidence, possibly off the back of retribution in cases. And we all know that once that mud is thrown, it sticks, and you can finish, Mark quite correctly, you can finish your investigation and you can come through the end of that investigation and say, all cleared, we have found nothing here. But for that person who may have been named in one of these inquiries to polish their tarnished reputation is incredibly difficult out in the court of public opinion. So I would want to see that very, very, very carefully scrutinised and handled properly in these sort of entities. Because
Craig, have you got a response to that? Is there a way through that?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a lot of protections there in these kind of bills and these organisations they actually have to have an enormous amount of investigations prior to actually, bringing somebody before them.
Yeah, which is what Senator Bragg was referring to in ICAC,
Yeah, I don't think that it's true that there's just innuendo thrown out in this. I think that people might get caught up in other people's cases, as happened in New South Wales, but I don't think it's the case that, somebody has been brought before these bodies without enormous amount of investigation, enormous amount of consideration going on to it. And look, in the case in New South Wales with Gladys Berejiklian, a very popular leader in a lot of ways, but I think we should wait and see what evidence comes out of the actual investigation before we make our judgments.
Do you want to make any comment there, Senator?
A bit late for that, though, isn't it? Yeah.
Okay, just one second. Senator Bragg?
Premier Berejiklian's case, isn't it?
I'm inviting Senator Bragg to speak, everyone. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I'd just say that I think that the Victorian model, where you do the work behind the scenes, hasn't destroyed reputations unnecessarily, whereas in New South Wales, they're much quicker to go to public trials. I think that there is a case for public trials. That's always been a feature of Royal Commission, so I think that could be a feature of a federal body. But I am also conscious of what Kate has said, that we don't want to unnecessarily rub people out of public office without there being a proper process, because it's hard enough to get good people to run for public office to start with.
I'm noting that your colleague MP David Sharma, he's calling for a beefed up ICAC. He said, my view is that some of the referral ability needs to be broadened. The class of people subject to it needs to be broadened out. That's the one, of course, that's been proposed by your government. I think you pretty much agree with that. Do you want to see public servants and also the agencies that might be subject to scrutiny under that? Do you want to see federal politicians and parliamentarians also subject to the same kind of powers and scrutiny?
Oh, for sure. It needs to be focused on corruption. It needs to be focused on where people are using public office for their own benefit or to help their associates. And then, separate to that, you've got integrity measures which already exist, which I think could be beefed up, pecuniary interest standards, ministerial standards and the like. I mean, the pecuniary interest standards, I think, in particular, could be reviewed. I think there are many gaps there. So there's a whole lot of things you could do.
Okay, let's go to...
Could I just respond just to Kate, to reassure you, Kate, that there are remedies to this issue. No one wants to see vexatious claims made against good people. They don't. And certainly the bill that I've worked in partnership with legal experts on has design features about that, so that the Commissioner can throw out immediately any vexatious claims. That, as Andrew said, a considerable amount of work done before it ever gets to an investigation point, and certainly before it gets to a public hearing. And it's so important, though, that like a Royal Commission, that if someone is brought before the Commissioner and there is good cause to do so after that preliminary work, that the public can see what happens and that there is a public report and exoneration if that's
my issue.
Well, if you want to hear from the questioners, Kate, you'll have to keep it tight.
I get called out, and so I appear, probably quite rightly, but I just happened to mention Mark as part of, and all of a sudden that's picked up in the media, and I'm talking about those kind of trials by innuendo, where there's absolutely no reason other than the fact that I didn't like the suit that Mark was
there's still
wearing,
the defamation laws that exist and that prevent us from maybe reporting what you've suggested
I can
there.
reassure you.